The notification sound on my phone used to make me smile. Now it just makes my stomach drop. I was sitting at my kitchen table, coffee going cold beside me, laptop open to a spreadsheet I couldn't focus on. Outside, it was one of those gray November mornings where the light never really arrives. I had been staring at the same row of numbers for 20 minutes when my phone buzzed. A text from my brother. "We need to talk. Call me when you can." 7 words. No punctuation after the period. No emoji. No love you. None of the casual warmth he used to end messages with. Just 7 words that somehow told me everything before the conversation even started. I put the phone face down on the table and looked out the window for a long time. My name is not important. What happened to me is, I am 31 years old. I live alone in a 1-bedroom apartment in Columbus, Ohio. I work in software product management, which means I spend my days making sure other people's ideas become real things in the world. I am good at it. I am methodical, detail-oriented, and I have a very high tolerance for other people's chaos. That last part, I have since learned, was not an asset. It was an invitation. My brother, I will call him Daniel, is 4 years older than me. Growing up, he was the one everyone pointed to, charismatic, confident, always the loudest person in any room. My parents adored him in the way that parents sometimes adore a child who simply asks for more. He asked for more, and so he received more. I did not ask. I assumed there was a reason for the imbalance, and I told myself it did not bother me. That is the first lie I told myself. There were others. When Daniel was 26, he started a marketing consultancy out of the 2nd bedroom of his apartment. My parents helped him with the first few months of rent so he could focus on building the business instead of worrying about bills. I was 22 at the time, fresh out of college, working an entry-level job that paid barely enough to cover my own rent across town. Nobody offered to help me with anything. I did not ask. I told myself that was fine too. The business grew slowly at first, then faster. Daniel had a talent for selling. He could walk into a room and read every person in it within 90 seconds. And by the end of the meeting, they were nodding along to whatever he proposed. The ideas behind the proposals were often thin. He knew how to dress a room, not how to build one. That is where I came in. It started small. He called me one Sunday afternoon, which was unusual. Daniel did not call to chat. He called when he needed something. He asked if I could look over a proposal he had written for a potential client, a mid-sized retail chain and their first big account. He needed the numbers section to make sense. I spent 4 hours on a Sunday restructuring his entire proposal, cleaned up the data, added a projection model, rewrote the executive summary so it actually said something. He sent it Monday morning. They signed the contract by Wednesday. He texted me, "You are a genius. I owe you dinner." We never had that dinner. Over the next 3 years, I became the silent infrastructure of his business. He never gave me a title. He never gave me a contract. What he gave me was a steady stream of text messages, late-night phone calls, and the occasional "I don't know what I would do without you" that felt, in the moment, like enough. I built his client reporting system from scratch. I designed the operational processes that allowed him to scale from 3 clients to 30. I hired 2 of his first analysts, interviewed them, trained them, set up their onboarding. I did all of this while holding down my own full-time job. Some weeks I was putting in 60 hours between the 2. My parents knew. They would ask Daniel at family dinners how the business was going, and he would tell them about some new client or a successful campaign, and my mother would say, "You work so hard," in this soft, proud voice. I would be sitting 3 feet away, eating my food quietly. Just once, I said. I helped with that one, actually. The analytics piece took me most of the weekend. My father looked at me. He said, "That's great, honey. You've always been good at supporting people." Supporting people. I replayed that sentence for months afterward. I told myself he meant it kindly. I told myself a lot of things. The first real crack appeared about 18 months in. Daniel had landed a contract with a national restaurant group. It was, by far, the biggest account he had ever pursued. The pitch required a full competitive analysis, a custom data dashboard, and a 12-month strategy document. It was, in total, about 300 hours of work. I did most of it. I want to be precise about that. I did not help with it. I did not contribute to it. I built the majority of it, piece by piece, over 6 weeks, in the hours between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. on weeknights, and across full weekends I stopped scheduling anything else for. Daniel presented it. They loved it. They signed a 2-year contract. That night he called me, genuinely excited, voice higher than usual. He told me they had signed. He told me the contract value. It was significant, more than I made in a year at my actual job. I waited. He said, "I want to take the whole team out to celebrate. You should come." Not, "I want to take you out to thank you." Not, "I could not have done this without you." Not even the dinner he had owed me for 3 years. Come, as a guest. To a celebration of work I had largely built. I said sure. I didn't go. I told him I wasn't feeling well. I sat in my apartment that night with a glass of wine and tried to name what I was feeling. It was not anger yet. It was something quieter and more corrosive than anger. It was the beginning of understanding. I should have drawn the line there. I know that now. The comment sections of stories like mine are always full of people asking why we don't stop sooner, why we keep going, why we allow it to continue for so long. I have asked myself the same question. The honest answer is that it is not simple. It is never simple when the person doing the harm is someone you love, someone you grew up with, someone whose approval you have been quietly reaching for your entire life without ever quite naming it as such. Daniel was not cruel in the ways that are easy to recognize. He never yelled at me. He never said anything deliberately unkind. He was warm, in his way. He would call just to check in sometimes, tell me something funny that happened, ask about my job. He made me feel like a peer, like a confidant. And then the next ask would come, and I would say yes again, and the warm feeling would be enough to carry me through. Until it wasn't. 2.5 years after I first restructured that proposal, Daniel decided to expand. He wanted to bring on a full-time operations director to formalize everything I had been doing informally. He called me about it. I felt something rise in my chest. I genuinely thought that he was calling to offer me the role. It made sense. I had been doing the work. I knew the systems better than anyone. I had built them. He was not calling to offer me the role. He was calling to ask if I would interview the candidates and help him select the right person. I sat very still for a moment. "You want me to hire the person who is going to do the job I've been doing," I said. "Well, yeah," he said. "You know what we need better than anyone. You'd be great at vetting them." There was no awareness in his voice, no irony. He genuinely did not see it. I said I would think about it. I spent 4 days thinking about it. I made a list. I am a list person. I process things better when they are written down. I wrote down everything I had done for his business over the previous 3 years. Every late night, every system, every client deliverable I had touched. Then I wrote down what I had received in return. Dinner invitations I had not redeemed. Texts, gratitude, expressed casually, and then set aside. The list did not balance. Not even close. I called him back. I told him I was not going to help him hire someone for a role that should have been offered to me first. And then, because I had rehearsed this, because I knew if I did not say it in that moment, I never would. I told him that I needed us to have a real conversation about what my involvement in his business had actually looked like, and what I expected going forward. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I didn't realize you felt that way." That sentence. I have heard it before, from other people in other situations, and it always means the same thing. It means, I did realize, and I chose not to address it. And now that you have named it, I am going to make that your problem instead of mine. What followed was 3 weeks of tense, unresolved conversations. Daniel was not hostile, which almost made it worse. He was reasonable sounding. He acknowledged that I had contributed a lot. He said he had always considered me part of the team. He said he valued me deeply. And then, in the same conversation, he would say things like, "But you also have your own career, and I didn't realize you expected compensation, and I thought we were just helping each other out." 3 years. 3 years, and it was just helping each other out. My mother called me during the second week. She had heard something from Daniel, I do not know exactly what, but enough. She said she thought I was being unfair to him. She said the business was his vision, his risk. She said I needed to remember that family helps family. I said, I have been helping, for 3 years, without pay, without credit, without a title. I have given him a significant part of my time and energy. That is not nothing. She said, he has always looked out for you too. I asked her when. She did not have a specific answer. She said I was being divisive, and that she hoped I would come to my senses before I damaged the relationship permanently. After we hung up, I sat on my bathroom floor for a while, not crying, something more like a slow realization settling into my bones. The calculus of my family had always been tilted in one direction, and I had somehow believed that if I gave enough, it would eventually even out. I was 30 years old, and I was only now understanding that it was never going to even out. That was not the design. I want to be careful here, because what I did next matters, and why I did it matters even more. I did not walk away immediately. I want to be honest about that. I pulled back. I told Daniel I needed some space, that I would not be available for his work going forward, but I did not sever things cleanly. Part of me still hoped that the discomfort would cause some kind of recognition, that my absence would make visible what my presence had been doing all along. It did, just not the way I had hoped. Over the next several months, things at Daniel's company began to deteriorate. The person he eventually hired as operations director did not understand the systems I had built. Daniel did not understand them either, because he had never needed to. I had always been there. Client deliverables started slipping. One of his longest-standing accounts sent a formal complaint. He lost a renewal. He called me in April. It was a Sunday, 10 in the morning, the exact same time he had called me years ago about that first proposal. He needed help. The account he was at risk of losing represented a significant portion of his revenue. If he lost it, he would have to lay off staff. He had been up all night. His voice sounded frayed in a way I had never heard before. And here is the part I still think about. I helped him. Not because I had forgiven everything. Not because I believed we were okay. I helped him because there were people at his company who depended on their paychecks and had nothing to do with what had happened between us. And because I am the kind of person who finds it very difficult to watch something break when I know how to fix it. I spent 2 weeks consulting on the account. We saved it. The client renewed. Daniel was grateful in the way he always was, warm, relieved, full of language about how much I meant to him and how much he appreciated everything. I listened. I said very little. And when it was over, I sent him a very short email. I told him that I was glad the account was stable and that the staff would keep their jobs. I told him that I would not be available for future work on his business, paid or otherwise. I told him I needed us to take a significant step back from one another for my own well-being, and that I hoped he would respect that. He called immediately. I did not answer. He called 3 more times that day. I did not answer. He texted. I read the texts and did not reply. My mother called the next morning. I let it go to voicemail. The voicemail said, "I don't know what you want from us. You're making this into something it doesn't need to be. Call me back." I did not call back. What happened after that was quieter than I expected. I had braced for a storm, for confrontation, for recrimination, for someone to come after me with the full weight of family obligation in their hands. Instead, there was mostly silence. A silence that said more than any argument could have. My birthday passed. No call from Daniel. A brief text from my mother, the kind you send when obligation requires acknowledgement but warmth does not follow. I responded with a single sentence. She did not reply. I spent a lot of that period alone, which sounds sad and was sometimes, but was also necessary in a way I cannot fully explain except to say, I had spent so many years being useful to other people that I had never learned how to simply be. To sit in a quiet apartment on a Saturday and not feel the low hum of someone else's need pulling at me, to make plans only for myself and feel no guilt about it. I took a course I had been postponing for 2 years. I started running in the mornings, nothing dramatic, just 20 minutes, but it became mine. I called an old friend from college who I had drifted from during the years I was stretched too thin. She sounded genuinely happy to hear from me. And at work, without the invisible weight I had been carrying, something shifted. I focused. I advocated for myself. I took on a project that had been too ambitious to touch before, when I was giving so much away at night. 6 months after I stepped back from Daniel, I was promoted. I did not tell my family. I celebrated with my friend, and with a bottle of wine, and with myself. The text from Daniel came 14 months after the email I had sent him. "We need to talk. Call me when you can." 7 words. I stared at them for a long time. I knew, before I called, that something was wrong. Daniel did not reach out unless something was wrong. That had been true my entire adult life, and apparently remained true. He picked up on the first ring. He was launching a new division. A significant expansion. He had secured investor interest and needed to move quickly. But there were foundational issues with the operational structure. The kind of issues that, if not addressed before launch, would compound. He had been talking to consultants. None of them understood the business the way I did. He needed me. He said it plainly, without preamble. I need your help. I know things have been complicated between us, but I don't have anyone else who can do what you do. I let him finish. Then I said, I appreciate you reaching out. I need you to know that I've genuinely wished you well. I have not spent this time hoping things would go badly for you. He started to say something. I kept going. But I'm not available for this. Not because I'm angry, and not to punish you. I'm not available because I spent 3 years building something with you that was never acknowledged for what it was. And when I named that, I was told I was being divisive. I've been doing a lot of healing since then, and part of that is being very intentional about where I put my energy. Silence on his end. A long one, he said. I hear you. I do. And I know I didn't handle things right. But this is a real opportunity. We can formalize things this time. A contract, compensation, everything above board. I thought about that 22-year-old who had spent a Sunday restructuring a proposal so that her brother could land his first big client. I thought about the birthday that passed without a phone call. I thought about my mother's voicemail, the one that said you're making this into something it doesn't need to be. I hope you find the right person, I said. I genuinely do. But that person is not me. He was quiet again. Then, is this really how you want to leave things? And I thought about that question. It implies that I had done something, that I was the one choosing to leave, as though nothing had come before this moment, as though the leaving were the act that mattered, and not everything that had made leaving necessary. I'm not leaving anything, I said finally. I've just stopped arriving. I have not spoken to Daniel since that call. My mother and I exchanged texts occasionally brief, careful, like two people navigating a room with furniture they cannot see in the dark. I do not know if things will ever be different. I am learning to hold that uncertainty without needing to resolve it. What I know is this. I am 31 years old. I have a job I am proud of, that I have earned through showing up fully for myself for the first time in my adult life. I have friendships I am tending to. I have a morning routine and a Saturday that belongs entirely to me. I am learning what it feels like to give my energy to people and situations that give something back. I used to think that walking away from family was a failure, a last resort for people who hadn't tried hard enough. I understand now that it can also be an act of profound clarity, a recognition that love, real love, does not ask you to disappear. I opened my laptop the other morning and looked at my calendar. Nothing I hadn't chosen. Every meeting, every plan, every commitment mine. I made a fresh cup of coffee and sat with it while it was still hot. It was a small thing. It felt like everything,